All right, welcome everyone to this explainer. Today, we are decoding the specs and finding the true value in the Carrier 1.5-ton AC lineup. Look, if you're in the market for a new air conditioner right now, you know exactly how overwhelming all that technical jargon can be. Well, today, we're cutting straight through the noise. We're diving deep into the highly discussed 2026 versus 2025 models from Carrier, the brand that literally invented modern air conditioning. We're going to separate the marketing fluff from the actual on-the-ground hardware changes so you can make the absolute smartest investment for your home. Let's get into it.
Okay, here's a quick look at our roadmap. First, we'll cover the 2026 Carrier lineup, then the key technical differences. Third, smart features and usage. Fourth, the hidden installation realities. And finally, we'll wrap up with our value for money verdict.
Section 1. The 2026 Carrier lineup, building the baseline. Before we start pitting models against each other, we really need to establish the impressive core tech Carrier's providing across the board for 2026. Whether you go for the 3-star or the 5-star variant, the foundation is rock solid. They're using highly durable, 100% copper coils wrapped in this hydro blue coating. It's basically armor against rust and corrosion, which is a massive win for longevity, especially if you live in a harsh or coastal environment. You're also getting the eco-friendly R32 green refrigerant, plus PM 2.5 and high-density filters that actually purify your air. Oh, and they've integrated these brilliant ADC sensors. They constantly monitor the system to keep it running safely, even if the outside temperature hits a blistering 52 degrees Celsius.
And you've got to love Carrier's Flexicool system. It lets you literally dial down your AC's power consumption depending on what's going on in the room. You aren't just stuck blasting the air at one setting. If you're chilling alone, just flip it to F1 mode. It uses only 40% power. Having a few friends over, bump it to 60 or 80%. But say it's that peak, brutal summer afternoon and your room feels like a literal oven, you can hit max mode, which cranks the capacity up to 5,400 watts to rapidly cool a space as large as 150 to 180 square feet. It is incredibly adaptable.
Moving on to Section 2. Key technical differences. The spec sheet illusion. This is the absolute most critical part of our explainer. We're going head-to-head with the 2025 and 2026 models. Let's start with the 3-star models. On paper, the cooling capacity is identical, 4,800 watts, but the 2026 model actually uses a noticeably smaller outdoor unit. It's a clever cost-cutting measure. Now, the internal specs, filters, and copper density are largely untouched, but that smaller footprint outside means it might have a slightly lower heat dissipation rate compared to the older, heavier unit. It still performs great for sure, but it's a subtle engineering tweak you definitely should be aware of. Now, for the 5-star models, this is where things get really interesting. Carrier actually reduced the cooling capacity for 2026, dropping it from 5,000 watts down to 4,800 watts. If you're just standing in a store, glancing at the box, you'd immediately think you're getting less power for your money this year. Right? You see 4,800 watts and you think, wait, is this new 5-star model a downgrade? You might even be tempted to hunt down last year's 2025 model, assuming it's going to cool your room better. But actually, scratch that. That would be a huge mistake, because it completely ignores the second half of the engineering equation. Here is the reality check. Carrier offset that capacity drop by making the 2026 outdoor unit massive. I mean, it is nearly 6.5 kilograms heavier than before. Why does that matter? Because a larger surface area outside means the system expels hot air much more efficiently. So despite that 200-watt drop on the spec sheet, the rapid heat dissipation means your room cools down just as fast and just as effectively. It's honestly a masterclass in why you can never just read one single number on a spec sheet.
Now, across both the 3-star and 5-star tiers, upgrading from the 2025 model to the new 2026 model is going to cost you exactly 2,000 rupees more. That's the premium for the newer Indian seasonal energy efficiency ratings and those hardware tweaks. Keep that 2,000 rupee figure in mind because we're going to calculate exactly whether that upgrade is worth your hard-earned cash in just a minute.
All right, Section 3. Smart features and usage. Taking control. Hardware is really only half the story. It's how you use the machine every day that defines your comfort. If you opt for the Wi-Fi variant, the app integration is a total game changer. You get live energy monitoring right on your phone. Plus, it has geo-fencing. Imagine leaving the office and your AC just knows you're on the move and kicks on. By the time you walk through your front door, your bedroom is already a perfect 22 degrees. No waiting around. And their sleep mode? Brilliant. It gradually bumps up the temperature throughout the night as the outside air cools down, so you don't wake up freezing, and you save on electricity. Win-win. Section 4. Hidden Installation Realities. The Insider Tips. Look, you've bought the AC, but this explainer wouldn't be complete without talking about the hidden realities of actually getting the thing installed. This is where so many people get caught off guard. Step 1. Monitor that pipe length. Carrier gives you 3 meters of copper pipe in the box. If you need more, it's roughly 300 to 380 rupees per extra foot, so plan your mounting spots wisely. But step 2 is absolutely crucial. Always demand the proper vacuuming process. Some technicians will try to skip it to save time, claiming a new machine doesn't need it. Do not let them. Insist on it to prevent future gas leaks.
So realistically, what's the damage? Well, the base installation fee might be advertised around 1,500 rupees, but once you add the outdoor unit mounting bracket and any extra piping, you really need to budget between 2,500 and 4,500 rupees. That is the actual out-of-pocket expense you need to prepare for.
Okay, finally, Section 5, the value for money verdict, the electricity math.
Let's bring this all together. We know the 2026 model costs 2,000 rupees more upfront, but is paying that extra cash actually a smart financial move? If the real-world cooling is virtually identical, why not just save the money and buy the 2025 version? Well, the answer is hiding in your monthly electricity bill. Let's do the math on the 5-star unit. Because the 2026 model meets those newer, much stricter energy efficiency ratings, it consumes noticeably less power. It actually saves you about 90 units of electricity annually compared to the older model. At an average rate of 10 rupees per unit, that translates to roughly 900 rupees straight back into your pocket every single year. So the verdict becomes crystal clear. In just over 2 years, those electricity savings completely wipe out that initial 2,000 rupee price gap. The 2026 model literally pays for itself. And after year 2, that highly efficient 2026 unit is actively saving you money every single summer compared to what you would have spent running the older model. So our definitive takeaway today is that the 2026 Carrier lineup, despite some of those clever spec sheet illusions we talked about, is undeniably the smarter, more efficient investment for your home. By utilizing those massive outdoor units on the 5-star models and hitting better energy ratings, they've struck a perfect balance between cooling power and long-term financial savings. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I want to leave you with one final thought. The next time you're out buying an appliance, are you just looking at the flashy numbers on the box, or are you doing the math that actually matters? Remember to look past the surface specs, plan out your installation, and always calculate those long-term energy costs. Stay cool out there and stay smart with your investments.